Hi, I'm Kathleen Hale. I'm a student here at DU and I'm from Colorado Springs. My experience with the Waldo Canyon fire was interesting. This summer I worked on a train, like a tourist train that goes up and down Pikes Peak. So I'm the conductor, I'm like the tour guide. And I was actually on the top of Pikes Peak when the fire started, or at least when I could see the fire start. Like around like 10:30 that morning, there was like a giant cloud of smoke, and I was like, that's another fire, because we'd been having a lot of fires that summer, and I was like, oh, that can't be good, that's another fire. And it was like really scary because like that's my city, that's my town. I know like people who live right there, and the depot of the train station is actually like only across the small canyon from it, so it was really creepy to see. And I was like, okay, well that's not good. And then I do 2 trips up and down the mountain a day, and that was on my first trip. And then so I went back down, and on the second trip back up, I was in mid speech, and the guy driving the train, the engineer, I'm the conductor. He got on the mic and was like, Kathleen, we gotta turn around. I was like, why? And over the loudspeaker in front of all these customers, he's like, we're getting evacuated.
The Waldo Canyon fire was the most expensive and destructive fire in Colorado history, burning for multiple weeks in the summer of 2012. It was responsible for the evacuation of 32,000 residents of Colorado Springs, Manitou Springs, and several other small mountain communities bordering the Rampart Range Mountains. It burned over 18,000 acres, about 29 square miles. At about noon on Saturday, June 23rd, residents from communities along Highway 24 west of Colorado Springs called 911 reporting plumes of smoke rising. By the afternoon, the fire was rapidly growing in all directions, fueled by strong, erratic winds. The U.S. Forest Service called it a Type 1 incident, the highest possible level to signify its intensity. Evacuations were ordered for communities of Cedar Heights, Cascade, and the Garden of the Gods Park. On Sunday, 3 main groups of firefighters combated the fire's growth from fire lines near Cedar Heights, Glen Erie, and Mountain Shadows. Helicopters joined the fight and dropped retardants on the fire from above, which continued to grow in 3 directions as more evacuation orders were given. Monday was also a challenging day for firefighters, as the fire spread eastward into Queens Canyon, a gateway to more heavily populated areas. The National Weather Service projected hot and dry weather for the week, with temperatures reaching 100 degrees and winds up to 30 miles per hour. A report released declared that the fire was being fueled by western long needle pine and short needle conifers. It also reported that the fast rate of spread was due to the steep topography, dry fuel, and southern exposure. Furthermore, the fire was spitting embers a quarter of a mile high, igniting trees behind the fire lines. By the end of the day, the fire's rapid growth had slowed and 5% containment was reached. On Tuesday, June 26th, the fire had its most destructive day. In the afternoon, following a dry thunderstorm and its resultant winds reaching 65 miles per hour, structures in the Mountain Shadows community burned, along with the Flying W Ranch, a popular tourist attraction. In all, 346 buildings burned to the ground. Governor Hickenlooper and President Obama visited the area to survey damage and thank first responders later that week. Although the fire continued to burn for most of the summer, there was no further property destruction. 15% containment was reached that Thursday, and by Sunday, July 1st, substantial progress was made to contain 55% of the fire. 100% containment was finally reached on July 10th.
As the Earth continues to warm due to the influx of greenhouse gas emissions in the atmosphere, wildfires have become a new focus of the global stage. As wildfires rage through the western United States, higher amounts of ash and carbon are released into the atmosphere, which traps in more long-wave heat radiation and contributes to a warmer Earth temperature. However, carbon emissions from wildfires are minuscule in comparison to the emissions from anthropogenic activities like burning large amounts of fossil fuels. Therefore, it is more crucial that we look at the ways in which a warmer planet will increase the number of wildfires in the western United States. The chances of reaching the high temperatures we experienced this past summer was only 1 in 300 in the 1950s. Now it is projected that there is a 1 in 10 chance that we will continue to reach these sweltering temperatures throughout the next few decades. Higher temperatures will lead to an earlier snowmelt in the mountains of Colorado, Wyoming, Utah, and California. As a result, valleys will become more prone to drought. Low elevation vegetation will have less access to nutrients from the melted snow and will become abundant sources of dry fuel for the fires. Higher temperatures will also cause more evaporation of the melted snow, so even less moisture will reach the forest valleys in these states. Finally, a large influx of heat could aid the formation of more frequent, intense lightning storms. Lightning is the most dangerous natural igniter of wildfires. More storms could also lead to heavy rainfall, which could cause flooding and sediment erosion in areas that have been affected by wildfires, which could lead to the contamination of freshwater sources and the destruction of future communities.
The relationship between fire and water plays a key role in our environment. This relationship played itself out dramatically throughout Colorado in the summer of 2012. This Colorado River Basin experienced severe drought conditions, coupled with record low snowpack the previous winter. Soil moisture was at 5 to 10%, when it should normally be around 40%. These conditions set the stage for a season of record wildfires in Colorado, including the Waldo Canyon fire. These fires have had a major impact on the fresh water reserves that people in Colorado and the surrounding states rely on. The most visible aspect of this change can be seen in the ash and debris from the fires that clog rivers and reservoirs. The fires also leave long-term effects which may not be as visible. After the fires, there is less organic matter left to absorb moisture from rainfalls. In addition, a waxy substance is released from plants when they burn, which forms a waterproof coating on burn areas, increasing the risk of flash floods. Such storms cause more dirt and debris to wash into rivers and reservoirs. Removing this from the water system slows the treatment process and increases the costs for years to come. Wildfires will also decrease the supply of water in the long term. During the first 5 to 10 years, water quantities will increase because there is no vegetation to absorb water. However, once the forest begins to grow back, these new plants will consume more water. Wildfires will also affect the chemical composition of water sources, most significantly by increasing levels of phosphorus and nitrogen. After a wildfire, nitrate concentrations in water can increase to as much as 10 times the federal drinking water standard. Humans are not the only ones harmed by new water conditions either. Increased sediment can overwhelm the normal conditions for fish and other aquatic organisms. Increased water temperatures as a result of nearby fires will not dissolve as much oxygen, causing problems for freshwater fish. The interplay between fire and water plays a vital role in the environment and our clean water supply.
As droughts across the western plains continue to elongate and strengthen, fire departments throughout the region have begun to develop techniques to prevent future fires. One such technique is controlled burning. In order to eliminate potential fire igniters, such as dead leaves and pine needles, fire departments have begun to purposely burn fires in a controlled area, therefore eliminating potential fuels. This technique also quickens the fire's natural process of germination, helping some trees and vegetation start their cycles of rebirth and regrowth. During our trip west of Colorado Springs to the mountain town of Cascade, we saw the utter devastation and destruction caused by the Waldo Canyon fires last summer. However, members of the fire department in El Paso County and all over the state of Colorado have begun to use innovative methods to restore and maintain the charred landscapes. One such method, called hill slope stabilization treatments, helps stop post-fire floods and sediment movement by quickly establishing a ground cover that can slow surface runoff. Firefighters can airdrop seeds or mulch to treat large areas in a short period of time. Dropping seeds and mulch onto the affected area is cost-effective and helps stabilize the exposed soil by increasing infiltration capabilities and protecting soil from raindrop splashes. These methods, while not foolproof, could prevent future threats to the downslope communities and the freshwater resources of Colorado.
The effects of the fire, like physically on people around town. There was ash. There was just like showers of ash all the time. Like you'd wake up in the morning and there'd just be like half an inch of like just dust on your windows, and you were like, oh, that's really gross. So that was fun. Not at all. Also, when I went back to work, the fire was obviously still going on. It lasted for like 2.5 weeks, which was terrifying. But when I went back to work, since it was so close to it, my eyes, I was having like an allergy attack for 2 straight weeks, and I just be like down in Benadryl, like, you know, no other. That was probably not the best idea, but it was, my eyes were super red. Everybody was like coughing and blowing their nose. It was just like everybody had an allergic reaction for 2 straight weeks, and it was awful. In the end, like, awful tragedy. It was like 347 homes, I think, that burned. Something close to that. It was traumatic, but it really brought our city together like no other. It just brought everyone together of any socioeconomic level, of any different part of town. We were all just bonded together, trying to get through this together. And so that was, I don't know if you could say it was a good thing, but out of all the awful things that happened to Colorado this summer, I felt like our town, our city proved that like we could get through something together.